Hello, Bible readers. I know I've said this before, but I never really thought the Psalms were so connected to each other as much as they sometimes are. Psalm 62 acts a lot like a sequel to Psalm 61 and a lot like a prequel to Psalm 63. They're obviously they're not just shotgun approach to, oh, I'll write a song about this, I'll write a song about that. These psalms actually flow. They share similar vocabulary. They have similar images in them, which can make them feel a bit repetitive, but they each have their distinctive word as well. My commentary mentions that Jeduthun and his descendants, he's who is in the superscription, they were associated with temple music, worship music. Like they were known, right? It would be like if the Psalms had been written 50 years ago, a superscription might say something like according to Elvis or the Beatles or something, and you'd get a sense for what the psalmist is getting at because they each bring a certain vibe to their music, right? Well, beyond the music or musicians that performed the music, this psalm, theologically speaking, is about trust, especially in crisis. Oftentimes, I'll sit with people who face an upcoming surgery or who are waiting for news from a biopsy, whether it's cancer or not, or whatever. And there are so many circumstances where Psalm 62, I think, really could provide a helpful mantra with its refrain, "For God alone, my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. I shall not be shaken. I shall not be shaken." Like, have you ever needed to say that? To be convinced of that? The first time we hear this refrain, the psalmist says, "From God comes my salvation." And the only line that changes when we hear the refrain is, "For my hope is from him." Hope sustains the psalmist while waiting for the salvation of God to happen. Hope sustains while waiting for salvation. It's the only way that any of us can say, "I will not be shaken, I will not be shaken," is to live in that kind of hope as we wait for salvation. When, by all rights, we should be shaken, right? Living in hope is not only a coping mechanism to get through the trials of life. Hope is a way of living, not just a way of coping, but a way of living. And it's a way of living in a promised future, before the promised future has happened. Perhaps while the present is actually pretty bad. Hope sustains because hope is living in this imperfect and broken moment, but in faith, in a relationship with God. That's how I define faith, right? Faith is this relationship. Have you heard this saying, in the end, all will be well? And if all is not well, then it must not be the end? Like, there is a trust there that Psalm 62 would share. And Psalm 62 is not a lament like so many other Psalms. It's also not quite a psalm of thanksgiving. It's very distinct in its form. It's very much its own kind of form that doesn't address God directly until the very last verse. That's unusual. It acts a lot more like a wisdom psalm that seeks to teach. The lesson? Trust God and pray honestly. That's the psalmist's experience, is that one can do that. And the kind of trust we can have in God is the kind that can shape not only individuals, but entire communities. My Brueggemann and Bellinger commentary says the psalmist's plea is a lot like the call of Jesus. And Jesus is in the business. The whole way of his ministry, the whole point he's on earth is to form and maintain a community that will be the people of God. We call it the church for now. But my commentary says this plea of Psalm 62, it's a lot like the call of Jesus in the beginning of Mark's gospel, as Jesus seeks to build a community around hope for the salvation that is to come. And remember, Jesus' initial call is repent and believe in the good news. And that is the building block that forms the whole church. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times, in all places.